Well, the 2025 National is over, but there is a lot to talk about with how this year's National went and how future Nationals could be and should be. And there's no better person to talk about this with than Ryan Johnson, CardCollector2, who's joining me today for a National recap. We are going to talk about the business we did on the show floor. We're talking well over $1 million in business, setting sales records for both of us. But there's some bad that went along with it as well. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the future of the National. Let's get started. The Jeff Wilson Show is brought to you by Arena Club, the official home of slab packs. Now available every day, slab packs offer an exciting way to collect graded cards with confidence. Plus, every pack comes with an instant offer to buy your slab. Don't miss out. Explore the latest slab packs and more by downloading the Arena Club app. Just search Arena Club in your app store and use promo code SCI20 for 20% off your first purchase. All right, Ryan, we have made it to the end. We are here at the end of the National. Wow. What a week is what a week. What's your initial reaction to the 2025 National and how this week went?
Yeah, it was I feel like I leave the National every year and I'm like, man, can it get any bigger? Can the National get any bigger? And then Thursday especially was really the day that stood out to me as like just complete chaos. It was packed. And for a Thursday at the National, like it is the first full day. So, trade night, the first night is Thursday. So I figured it would be good, but not as insane as it was. And just every day followed that. Like Saturday, you couldn't even really walk in here at all. We really just kind of sat at the booth just because like getting through the aisles, and these are not small aisles, it was just... It's crazy. It seems like every year this just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just wonder. I'm like, when does it stop? Because it just seems to be going in the right direction every year.
I told my wife and I went to dinner last night, which is an unusual thing during the National, right? So normally nonstop, and we were my team and I were nonstop every single day. And then finally, when you get a Saturday night, that's like the first night where it's like, okay, we've made it through the gauntlet, take a moment to relax. So my wife and I went to dinner late last night, and she said to me, she's like, is this going to keep growing? And I said, honestly, what I'm about to say sounds crazy, but I said, I think 3 years from now, this is double what it is today. That's my prediction. And one of my, I believe that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think momentum feeds upon itself. Yep. There's a ton of momentum in the sports card hobby this year. You and I last talked at Fanatics Fest when we were talking at the end of Fanatics Fest on your podcast, Cards and Content, and we talked about how well Fanatics Fest had gone and how that had turned into this premier event in the hobby and how that was going to continue to build upon itself. So now you got Fanatics Fest building upon itself, the Nationals building upon itself, and it's one of those things where it's like you get this kind of momentum going, and I think that momentum just continues to lift everything, at least for a period of time. And so that's part of the reason why. But then another big part of the reason why is we've got Fanatics taking over the NBA license this October. We've got them taking over the NBA license next April.
NFL license next April.
Yeah, or the NFL license, next April.
Yep.
And so I really think that injection of marketing, media, athlete participation, product innovation that we've seen really lift up baseball over the last couple of years. I think it's going to lift up the NBA even more. I think it's going to lift up the NFL even more. And I think that is going to only further build. I think you're going to see some everyday NFL sports fans who aren't into collecting. And NFL, by the way, is the big opportunity. That's the big opportunity. Yep. And I think you're going to see NFL fans. This marketing is going to kind of work some, and some of those folks are going to get exposed. They're going to get curious. They're going to say, what's this National thing? They're going to see about it on YouTube, on your channel or my channel. They're going to want to go check it out. So, I completely agree. This year was crazy. Yeah. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in a few years.
Yeah, and we sat here last year.
Yeah.
In, was it Cleveland? And, we sat down and you said, the National has outgrown this space.
It had.
And I sit here today and feel the same way about the show. this show is, we did the booth selection not long ago, and we got a booth this year. We were set up, and booths had already sold out by the time we had got to select our booth for next year. So there was only table options, and it's like clearly there's a major demand to be here from a dealer perspective and an attendee perspective. I haven't seen the official reports yet, but I would imagine this has broke attendance records.
I would think so.
And that's where I wonder is how is there a space big enough to hold this? Like, is it going to be upstairs? Like, is that the next opportunity for growth? Is it a bigger venue? That's the thing you think about with Fanatics Fest as well, because Fanatics Fest, we talked about that there and how crazy that was. It's like my biggest thing as we continue to grow this is there space to host how big this thing could potentially get? Yeah,
And I think there is in other venues. I know, so we'll talk about the fact Detroit just won the 2028 National over my city of Atlanta, which I'm not pleased about. Not pleased about. We're going to speak about that in a minute. But but yes, I do think there's other venues that can handle it. But we're locked into Chicago for the next 2 years. It is back here in Chicago in 2026 and 2027. And the setup at Chicago is about 1,000 times better than it was at Cleveland last year. So that is great. However, we did talk about this last year. I think this thing's outgrowing Chicago. And I think by the time 2027, or at least this convention center, now there's actually a bigger convention center in downtown Chicago, but this is outgrowing Rosemont. And I think by the time 2027 comes around, I fear that the whole infrastructure here is going to be completely overwhelmed. It was already a bit overwhelmed this year. I think it's going to be completely overwhelmed in another couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
And I respect the people who run the National. I know a lot of them. I think the management group that runs the National has the right mindset. I think a lot of the older dealers that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years aren't necessarily perceiving the shift and the change the way that it is occurring. And I think that's holding the National back from maybe making some decisions that need to be made to better position the event for the future and to really treat this, the National is this interesting nonprofit dealer-owned event. It's kind of this, I don't even know what it is, like a consortium or something. And as a result of that, they can't act like how a company acts, where a company would see growth opportunity and get very aggressive about it and plan 2, 3, 5 years out in a very aggressive manner to expand, whereas the National kind of has to deal with the politics and the voting and the dealers, and there's just such a dichotomy between the new people that have come in over the last few years and the dealers that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years. And I respect those dealers. They're the history of this. I love talking to them. I love seeing the vintage stuff. I love seeing, hearing the stories of what the National used to be. And those are incredible moments in time that should be celebrated and documented forever. But where the National is going is very different. And the National needs to keep up. And it's trying, but I wish it would be a little bit more proactive about it.
Sure.
And maybe we'll see that in Detroit in 2028 and whatever, but I am a little worried about Chicago the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think the proactive versus reactive thing is crucial in this. Like you said, we're in Rosemont for 2 more years. It already seems like it's outgrown it, and we have 2 more years of this, of continued growth and likely, again, heading in the right direction. Is Detroit going to be ready for the growth that this industry is going to take on in the next couple years?
I hope so. I know Atlanta would have been. I hope Detroit will be. I don't know enough about the convention center set up there. Now, I do want to give the National quite a bit of credit this year, because last year Cleveland had some real issues. There were some real misses.
For sure.
And the new management company had just taken over before the Cleveland show. And they were just trying to get up to speed, and they were locked into that venue. It was what it was. This year, I do think line management, from what I saw, was a lot better. They were letting people in the venue early every day
100%.
To better manage the lines. They seemed to be more prepared to usher people in quickly. It felt more organized and less chaotic. Even though it was still chaotic, it felt more organized and less chaotic. They felt more prepared this year for the crowd, as best as they could be, given the venue and everything going on.
And I sit here in a sweatshirt. The air conditioning
It held
has
up
worked
better. It held up
entire
better.
week. The air
Wi-Fi was better. It wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
I still had dropping out. I still had moments on the show
Yeah.
floor where I was having trouble getting signal.
Yep.
But it was way better
Yep.
than it was a couple years ago.
For
if I
sure.
tried hard enough, I could look up a comp.
Yeah.
Sometimes it took a little while, but if I tried hard enough, I could look up a comp.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the air conditioning and the Wi-Fi, I know, are always some of the immediate complaints, from attendees is I can't get on the internet, I can't check comps, and it's 1,000 degrees. I know it's been really hot the last couple years. I never one time I said it was cold. I mean, I'm in a sweatshirt now. It was definitely working all week. The internet again, way better than I feel like it's ever been before. Yeah, I got to give him a lot of credit on that. I thought it was great, and again, like you said, the line management piece, like it was always super, super busy, but it never felt like just complete and total chaos. It felt a lot more organized, structured. I feel like they did a really good job with it this year.
I did too. So that's great. I'm glad we've had that progress, and the show is definitely bigger. It's interesting. There were a number of people that came up to me that went to the 2023 Chicago show, didn't go to Cleveland last year, and then they were back here, and the reaction that I got, what people were like, wow, this is, they're walking around the corporate area,
Yep.
and they're like, wow, this is a little bit, more substantial, a little bit bigger. This is a little crazier this year.
Yep.
And it was, the corporate area, the booths are the biggest and most insane that they've ever been, just in terms of it. And you've been going to the National for so long. My first National was 2019. And I remember the corporate area in 2019 versus the corporate area in 2025. It is night and day, like night and day different in terms of like the size, scope, the money being poured into it, the money being poured into the booths, the money being poured into the activations. The whole thing is just like so much more grand today than that. You've been going for 17 years, right? 17 Nationals?
2009.
Gosh, I can't even imagine what 2009 was like. What was the first one you did in Chicago?
I don't remember the exact order. I remember 2009 was Cleveland.
Okay.
So a lot of the ones back in the day were like Cleveland, Chicago. They were in Baltimore originally. So that was really the first three I went to. I think 2011, 12, one of those years was Baltimore. So like Steven Strasburg type days. I remember him being a big draw at one of the Nationals. So I don't remember the exact first National in Chicago. The one that, again, some of my Chicagos that stand out to me, like 2019 was one of the first ones I ever filmed at. So 2019 Chicago for me was a filming one, and then 2021 Chicago was the first time I ever had space at any booth. Again, that policy has changed a lot now. You got to have your own space, but setting up there for the first time. So I don't remember the exact time I went to Chicago for the first time. It would have probably been one of those years, following 2009. But 2009 in Cleveland, it was funny because, you're like, I can't imagine what that was like. I remember doing a box war. Panini's done that over the years. Like, you rip a box open, and they had like a case of cards, like a showcase in their booth. And if you won a box war, you could like pick a card from this case. And I remember winning one from a box of 2009 classics. I hit a Chad Johnson patch auto to like 10. It was like lowest numbered hit. And I won like an Adrian Peterson stamp autograph card in 2009. So yeah, it was
those sound pretty sweet, by the way. I like those cards.
It was a lot of fun. Again, so shout out to Panini. They've been around forever. But yeah, it was cool. So some of those same traditions, are still happening today. But yeah, very very different. I think the biggest thing is certainly the corporate area. It wasn't as grand in 2009.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it was like. It's been cool to see the growth. This year at the National, they opened up for the first time upstairs. Some additional. They had 75 dealer tables upstairs. They could have done a lot more. I hope they do next year. I don't know why they didn't just expand that. It seemed to be successful. It was very tight up there. The one thing that they needed to do up there was make the aisleways a lot better, bigger.
Especially with all the open space.
Yeah, especially the half the area up there was open, and then they had these crunched aisles. A lot of the newer ultra-modern dealers who weren't in priority to get tables down here all went upstairs. And there was a lot of big cards up there too. I thought that was a nice addition. I hope next year they grow that out and, might as well max out the space. They've got so many dealers that want to be part of this that, all the soccer dealers have left the show. And they, set up their own card show 15 minutes away.
I had heard about this late. Like, I heard about this on, Wednesday. I still don't know much about it, but I had heard that.
I went to it. I went to it one of the nights.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The SoCo Expo. They literally is like maybe 15, 20 minutes away. They rented out a huge indoor soccer facility.
Wow.
And they set up a very large, I mean, it was 200 and something tables of 100% soccer dealers there.
Interesting.
Because the National wouldn't let these people in because they said, oh, we're sold out, wait list, whatever. So, and all the soccer dealers are newer dealers, you know, so they're all people without any priority. They haven't done previous Nationals, whatever. So they're trying to get in. And, you know, the Nationals like, you know, whatever, you know, oh, we're sold out, whatever. And so they're just like, well, instead of fighting that fight, you know, we're trying to get, you know, whatever space and waiting in line and all this stuff. They're like, we're just going to go set up our own card show down the road. That's what they did.
Interesting.
I think it was really successful for them, you know? But like, why would the National not accommodate them and put them upstairs in all that open space? And I don't know, there's a few things that don't make sense to me, but I'm at least happy that the National did add some tables this year. I hope they add more next year. Your trade night was amazing. I felt the trade night really elevated this year too. Talk about the whole trade night experience.
Yeah, trade night has turned into something, you know, again, you talk about something that's grown a lot over the last decade plus. You know, trade night for the first time was 2016, Atlantic City.
And you originated that, right?
I was a part of it. Jimmy, Kentucky Basketball Cards, was certainly the mastermind behind this. He's the one that started it. We were just really good friends at the time. And, you know, so I helped with some of the, like, early, like, starting and some of that stuff. But Jimmy deserves all the credit in the world for it. But it was in a little, like, hotel, like, conference room in Atlantic City. And there was, you know, we joke about it, but it was true. There was more pretzels than people. Like 30 people showed up. It was originally like an Instagram trade night. Like, come meet the people you message and trade with online in person in a safe space at the National. And it blew up. Again, Chicago quickly after was in a room about twice as big. There's some photos of that. And then it just kept progressing from there. And now it's turned into something, you know, just an extension of the National. You know, you saw the eBay booth live from trade night. It was ginormous.
They had actual setups within the trade night room this year. It was nuts.
Yeah, so again, we're not as involved with it as we used to be in the past. The National runs a lot more of it. You know, thankfully we still get to have some, you know, input and some decisions in the process, and the National is super gracious with, you know, allowing us some unique opportunities with it. But it is turned into, again, just an extension of the National. You know, you see this at other shows, you know, Culture Collision. I know down by you guys run trade nights there, and, you know, we see it in Shipshawana when we run those. Trade nights are just such a big part of the hobby now. You know, shows are huge, but especially shows with trade nights with them, it's just going to continue to grow. But you also saw, you know, some of the hotels nearby making some decisions to not have trade nights.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. Lowe's Hotel had some signs posted that said, the National has trade nights. You cannot trade cards here. So clearly trade nights are just going to continue to grow and evolve. And next year will be, you know, the 10-year anniversary since it originally started. So we'll see what that looks like when, you know, we're back here in Chicago.
Probably smart for the hotels to do that, because I know in previous years there had been some issues with the trade nights in the hotel lobbies getting a little bit out of control and having to be shut down by the police due to capacity issues and whatever. But yeah, the official trade nights this year were great. I went to the one Thursday night, obviously, saw you there, and it was impressive how those things have grown. So what was your week like? Like, so what did Card Collector do throughout the week here at the show, and how successful was it all for you this year?
Yeah, it was, as you know, it's a lot. It's a lot of, you know, as our business has changed, it's a lot of content. So, you know, early on, again, like, you know so much about this. We have conversations. It's just about showing those who are not able to go what the National is like. So whether that be, you know, some of the booth setups or deals or exclusive packs and exclusive openings, a lot of it is content focused. So, you know, we had a whole crew and, you know, uploaded around the clock. It's a pretty extensive 24-hour type.
You guys went all out this year. You guys were churning out. I've been so busy I haven't been able to watch any of it. But every time I have gone onto YouTube this week just to check to see like what videos are being put out, I see you're always popping up with new thumbnail every time I'm on there. I'm like, man, Ryan's cranking out the content this week.
Yeah, it's just it's such a big priority for us. The National is such a big week for cards. I would argue it's the biggest week in the industry all year. And for those that are not able to go, that want to see it, it's an opportunity when you have a big platform to be able to show everybody what it's like. So tried to put out a bunch of different type of content, not all just buying, not all just selling, not all just trying to provide some variety. So a lot of it was content based. We did have a booth. I mentioned that earlier. We had two booths this year. Hectic. You know this. Like, you have a couple setups here on the show floor with the Cards HQ buying area, Sports Card Investor, the Kid Zone. That was the first time we'd ever had two, and that was a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. Learning how to manage the corporate area, which is we're in the Breakers Pavilion, so we're just a couple minutes from here. And there's a lot of different rules in there than on the show floor. So, selling, trading cards, individual cards is not allowed. You can't do that there. So you've got to plan for more, like you said, activations, right? Like, you want to, interact with the people that watch your content, follow you, and, want to meet you as a content creator. So a lot of it is activation based. So we had a podcast set up like this to film some podcasts with people we've not been able to film with. We had some, exclusive merch for giveaways. We had just different things to, interact with audience, collectors, etc. And then we had a show booth. Again, I won't get into specifics, but not including whatever we do today, it will already be 3 times the largest show we've ever done from a single selling perspective.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
Well, good, man. Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
It was great. It was insane how I didn't expect it. Like, we had goals for like what we wanted to do, and it was crazy.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. Well, I know at a lot of our focus, Cards HQ. So our setup this year, we have obviously our sports card investor area that we're in now with our Card Kids Trade Zone and market movers and stand-up displays. Cards HQ had 2 booths. One in the Breakers Pavilion as well, where we were doing live streaming on whatnot. Yeah. And then we had our regular dealer booth over there. Our main goal was buying. We did bring a bunch of cards as well, and so kind of for the first time this year, we had a bunch of singles for sale because we actually hadn't done that last year. And sales have gone well, but our main objective was around buying. That was, we've got three buyer stations with buyers the entire time the show's open.
Yep.
We brought with us $500,000 in cash to buy with.
Yep.
We ran out of cash by Friday morning. We had spent through all $500,000. We had to do emergency bank runs to go secure. Thankfully, with some bank runs and the help of some other people, we were able to secure essentially another $500,000 in cash. We've spent, I don't have the exact up to the minute total, but I think we've spent well over $1 million so far at this show buying cards, which is insane.
Yep.
Like, badly needed, but it's the only opportunity to do that. Like, we go to a lot of the Dallas card shows. Those are always good buying opportunities. But like a very successful Dallas card show for us is if we spend a couple $100,000,
Yep.
Like, to be able to go to a show and buy $1 million worth of stuff, like the Nationals, your one and only opportunity for that of the year.
Yep.
And we needed it. Like we wanted to do a full inventory reload of all of our showcases, our Cards HQ, and a lot of that stuff's coming back to Atlanta with us and getting loaded on our Cards HQ website and everything like that. And hopefully that keeps our showcases flush at least for the next month. I'm sure football is going to get decimated.
Yep.
Like, those have been, it's interesting, this seasonality of it. You obviously see that. The seasonality of this business is very much on display when you walk through the aisles of our Cards HQ showroom in Atlanta, because football, if you go back 2 months ago, our football aisle was completely full. Our showcases from bottom row to top row, full of cards.
Yep.
Baseball looked iffy.
Yep.
Basketball was okay. Now, like a couple weeks leading up to the National, the football aisle was decimated.
Yeah.
The baseball aisle is still whatever, but the basketball aisle is just filled to the brim. Like, just couldn't be more cards in the basketball aisle.
Yep.
So it's just the seasonality of what aisle people are going to and buying. And of course, right now it's football. That's where but it's only, everyone's gotten into the football mode over the last couple of weeks. That's like a new thing. But this next month, it's going to be all football, leading up to the start of the season. So hopefully, a lot of our buying at this show was football, because we really need to fill that thing back up. And
did you guys end up turning any inventory over? So like, if you bought something, did you put it out for sale?
We did. So and I have been so busy, I haven't even been able to really sit down with the team to understand exactly how that all performed. But yes, this year for the first time. Last year we were just buying, and everything went in boxes. Nothing was put out for sale, and it all went back to the store. This time, we brought a couple of our inventory team members with us, and our process was we immediately walked it into a little back room that we had set up in our booth. Our inventory team members then immediately logged it in our inventory system, printed out. We brought our price sticker printers and all that stuff. They immediately barcoded it, stickered it, and then it got put in a box to then be put out in our showcases at the show. So there was definitely a turnover of some of the inventory, some of that process, which then also helped, because it was when we ran out of cash by Friday morning and we're scrambling for cash, the one thing I said to the team was hey, we just got to sell more, because we now, okay, great, now we got $500,000 worth of cards. We got to just pump up the sales. So they did some rearranging of the booth to make it more to make the selling portion of the booth a little more attractive and noticeable, so that we could sell more and then hopefully get some of that cash immediately off the sales and then walk it over to the buyers, so then the buyers could use it to pay people out. So that's kind of what we were doing, was this big cycle here at the National. Yeah,
we tried that. Again, I think the tricky part with us is we don't have the extra inventory help, so for us it was a lot of the same team working the booth and then going back to try to process the inventory while doing trade nights and trying to relax after a crazy day. So yeah, I think that would be the thing we learned is next year for sure got to have some more help to be able to process that, because the opportunity to buy at the show is crazy. It's like you said, there's nothing else like it at the moment. So to be able to buy, we've just got to find a better way to continue to process it faster and just be able to get those cards out for sale.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I know you got to, before the actual show ends, I know you got to do an appearance or two, so we'll wrap up here in just a second, but just looking out to the future, right? What are you looking forward to next year? I know table space is difficult and at a premium, but what do you think you might do differently, or what do you think you might look forward to most about next year's show?
Yeah, I mean, trying to have, again, I think as I looked over in the Breakers Pavilion, you see so many amazing booths, and you said it here in the corporate area, we're over in the Breakers Pavilion, and these booths get bigger and more creative, and just they just upgrade every year. And so I think for us, it's how do we continue to build a really, really cool spot that people want to check out, and again, just allows us to kind of give back for the entire week. So how do we make the booth bigger and better next year? Last year we had half as much space, didn't get to do as much. This year it's a much bigger space. I felt really, really good about it. My guy Brad did an amazing job on designing it and building it. But then again, it's there's also the buying and selling portion of the business, and as much as we love the Breakers Pavilion, we want to be able to buy and sell and transact on the show floor. So hopefully there's an opportunity for that next year. Again, we'll see where how the cards unfold, but yeah, I think I am excited that it's going to be in Chicago for a couple years. I do like that. I hope the National, like you said earlier, I hope there's growth upstairs.
Yeah.
I hope we can have the ability, I hope we can grow proactively rather than more, like you said, reactively earlier. It seems like we're at that point now where expanding upstairs should be obvious. It doesn't seem like this is something that should be too crazy of a decision to start growing into upstairs, whether that's modern, whether that's soccer, whether that's non-sport, whether that's more of those dealers with bigger aisles, regardless of what it is. The general admission thing was good. they took general admission upstairs and then it came back down. So it allowed a lot of those dealers up there to get some foot traffic that maybe they normally wouldn't have gotten if it was just downstairs. So again, going back to that line management, I think there's a lot of things headed in the right direction. I think with a couple tweaks and some real growth upstairs, there's a real opportunity for this to be crazier, bigger and better next year, and that's what I'm excited for.
I hope they do that for sure. I'm looking forward to that as well. Yeah, there's some little tweaks we want to do with our booth setup and everything like that next year, but I think this year was a great base, and I hope that we can continue to build on it. I wish 20 Chicago next year, Chicago the year after. I wish it were Atlanta the year after that. I think they messed up. I'm sure Detroit's great. Atlanta's ready for this, man. Downtown Atlanta, we've got all the College Football Hall of Fame. It's where the Tops Conference is now, which is connected to the giant convention center. All of the hotels are connected. You got the world's biggest aquarium there. You've got all, World of Coca-Cola's there. You got all kinds of attractions right in that area. You got the Ferris wheel right outside. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where you could do an event at, is interconnected to all of this. State Farm Arena, where the Hawks play, is interconnected to all of this. The CNN Center, it's all right there. All these hotels. It's a lovely area now.
Sounds like a sports card investor card show.
Hey, maybe we'll take the National on head to head. Maybe we'll do that. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I wish the National would have come, but who knows? Maybe the year after or something, we'll finally snag them. Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's gonna be a fun ride ahead.
Looking forward to it for sure.
It's gonna be a fun ride ahead.
It's gonna be a exciting couple months.
For sure. Awesome, Ryan. All right, I'll let you get to it, man.
Cool.
Appreciate it. Keep up the great work. Keep up the great content. And for everybody out there who hasn't seen all of his content, make sure to check out CardCollector2 for all kinds. I'm going to be catching up over the next couple of weeks to watch all my CardCollector2 content from the National.
Thank you for having me, Geoff. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. And don't forget, guys, these full-length episodes of The Geoff Wilson Show are on YouTube, on The Geoff Wilson Show channel, also on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe everywhere. Thanks for watching.